The medical bay of the Galactic Union Station was quiet, too quiet. Even the gentle hum of the gravity stabilizers seemed to have stopped, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Alien doctors of many species moved carefully among their instruments, their movements precise and deliberate. Every hand, claw, and tentacle in the room was trained to heal, to fix the impossible, yet today something made even the most confident among them pause. The doors to the bay opened with a hiss. A stretcher rolled in, supported by 4 medics, and on that stretcher lay a human, or at least what remained of him. The first scan swept over the human's body. The monitors flashed bright red, then brighter red. Panic buzzed through the room, not in sound but in tense movements. Every alien doctor stared at the data. 17 broken bones, one muttered, his voice trembling. Internal bleeding, collapsed lung, nerve trauma, he should be dead. Yet the human was breathing. Barely, yes, but steady. And more than that, he was awake. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, looked around the room. Pain was written across his face in deep lines, but his gaze was calm. He saw the medics, the machines, and even the confused alien doctors, yet he did not flinch. "Is everyone else okay?" he asked, his voice hoarse but clear. The alien doctors froze. One of them, a tall, crystalline being named Viral, adjusted the scanner. He ran it again, and again. Each time the results were the same: 17 broken bones, severe internal injuries. By every law of biology known to the galaxy, this human should have died before reaching the medical bay. And yet he had not. A soft murmur spread among the alien doctors. Fear, disbelief, and awe tangled together. Viral's multifaceted eyes flicked nervously across the readings. He whispered to his assistant, "The scanners are functioning correctly. The human's body, it should not exist in this state." The human shifted slightly on the stretcher. Each movement sent sparks of pain through his body, yet he did not cry out. He simply gritted his teeth, as if willing his bones to stay where they were. The room felt smaller somehow, the air heavy with tension. One alien, a small, feathered surgeon named Laro, stepped closer. "What species is this?" he asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Viral shook his crystalline head. "A human from Earth, but I have never seen a human survive such trauma." The human spoke again, his voice stronger than expected. "Please check on the others, they need help." The aliens exchanged glances. "Others?" Laro asked. The human's hand twitched, pointing toward the corridor beyond. "The others, the civilians trapped." Viral's mind raced. There had been an explosion earlier in the station's energy core. The human had been among the rescue teams sent in. The scanners had picked up dozens of casualties. But this one, this human, had survived what would have killed anything else. The medics carefully lifted him onto the examination table. The human flinched as they moved his limbs but did not scream. The alien doctors worked quickly, trying to stabilize him. Monitors beeped. Fluids pumped. Nanites swarmed. All the advanced technology of the Galactic Union was at their disposal. But the human's survival was not just about technology. Even with all the machines and alien medicine, the doctors struggled to keep him alive. Every breath he drew was shallow. Every heartbeat felt fragile. One doctor, a large, amphibious creature with smooth green skin, placed his hand on the human's chest. "This patient, he is remarkable," the doctor said, his voice low. "No species should endure this much trauma." Viral nodded, his eyes fixed on the human's face. "It is more than endurance," he said. "It is something else, something we cannot measure." The human's vision blurred. His body screamed in pain, but his mind was clear. He remembered the moment of the explosion, the way debris had rained down, the screams of the trapped civilians. He had acted without thinking, throwing himself into danger to shield others. And now here he was, broken yet alive. "Just stay with me," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Viral adjusted the scanners again. He studied the human's nervous system, the broken bones, the collapsed lung. Every calculation said failure. Every prediction said death, but the human's vital signs held steady like a stubborn flame refusing to die. "Look at his eyes," Laurel said softly. "Even in pain, he is not afraid." Viral felt a chill. Fear was not common among humans, he realized. Not fear of death, at least. They felt pain, yes, but they did not yield to it. They did not collapse under it. Even broken, the human's mind was sharp, aware, and determined. The medical team worked in silence, except for the quiet hum of machines. Each moment stretched long and heavy. Then unexpectedly the human spoke again. "How long until I can move?" Viral blinked. "Move? You cannot even sit upright yet." The human's lips twisted into a faint smile despite the pain. "Then I'll move when I can, but I have to help. Others are counting on me." The alien doctors exchanged worried glances. None of them had heard anything like this before. Most species, when faced with mortal injury, would surrender immediately. But humans seem to fight instinctively, to endure, to survive. A young doctor, still in training, stepped forward. His eyes were wide with amazement. Why are they still conscious?" he asked. Viral shook his head. "It is not just consciousness, it is willpower. Humans have a unique drive. They do not obey the usual biological rules. They bend them." The human groaned softly as he shifted on the table, trying to ease the pain. "I have to check the others," he said. His body betrayed him. Pain shot through his limbs. Blood seeped from broken skin, but he tried to sit up anyway. "Stop!" Viral shouted. "You will kill yourself." But the human ignored him. He tried again, muscles trembling, bones aching. The alien doctors watched in horror as he pushed through impossible pain, his determination unbroken. For the first time, Viral felt a strange emotion: respect, fear, awe. The human was not just surviving, he was defying nature. He was showing a strength that the Galactic Union had never measured. Hours passed. The medical team stabilized the human as best they could. They worked tirelessly, adjusting fluids, monitoring vitals, and repairing what could be repaired. Still, every second was a battle, and all the while the human's thoughts remained on others. Not on his pain, not on his fear, not on his possible death. Others, civilians. His team. Finally, Viral stepped back and observed. "This patient, he is not just surviving, he is teaching us something about humans." Lauro nodded slowly. "Yes, he is showing us what it means to refuse to die, even when broken. Even when everything says you cannot continue." The human closed his eyes for a moment, breathing shallowly, pain radiating through every part of his body. Yet even in rest, even in fragility, there was a spark in him. A spark that refused to be extinguished. The alien doctors stared at the monitors again. No explanation existed for what they were witnessing. No formula, no calculation, no machine could account for the human's survival. And for the first time, they understood that humans were not just another species in the galaxy. Humans were something else entirely. The doors of the medical bay opened once more, carrying news of other injured civilians. The human's head turned, his eyes blinking slowly, yet with a sharp focus. Despite 17 broken bones, despite internal injuries that would have killed anything else, he tried to rise, to help, to do something. And in that moment, every alien in the room realized a simple, terrifying truth. The human's lips curled faintly into a weak smile. Pain and determination mixed in his gaze. "Because someone has to," he murmured. The room fell silent once more. Not with fear this time, but with the dawning realization that humans, small and fragile as they seemed, carried a force no alien technology could ever break. And so the first part of the human's legend began, the story of a species that refused to die, even when broken beyond hope. The human lay on the medical table, barely moving. His body was a patchwork of broken bones, bruised tissue, and torn ligaments. Every motion sent waves of pain through him, yet his mind remained sharp, alert, and focused. The alien doctors, still struggling to comprehend his survival, had stabilized his vital signs as much as possible, but they could do little to repair the sheer number of injuries. In the quiet of the medical bay, Viral adjusted the monitors and sighed. His body should be failing, he muttered to Lauro, the young feathered doctor. By every measure, this human should be dead. Lauro nodded, her beak tapping lightly against her palm. And yet, he is not. Why? Viral shook his crystalline head. Because humans are different. I think they do not measure life and death the same way we do. Their will, it refuses to break, even when their body is damaged beyond repair. The human shifted slightly, groaning softly. Pain racked his body, but he tried to sit up. The alien medics immediately restrained him. "Stop!" Viral shouted, his voice firm. "You will kill yourself if you try to move." The human opened his eyes, and for a moment a spark of humor flickered in his gaze. "If I don't move, the others may die," he whispered. "I can't just lie here." The alien doctors exchanged uneasy glances. They had stabilized his lungs, realigned his broken limbs as best they could, and provided nanomedical support to speed recovery. Yet even they could not match his determination. No alien species they had treated had ever tried to do anything while broken like this. Viral knelt beside him. "Tell me, why are you still trying?" The human inhaled slowly, each breath a struggle. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "Someone has to keep going. Someone has to make sure everyone else survives. If I stop, who will protect them?" Lauro's feathers ruffled in surprise. "That is remarkable," she whispered. "He is thinking beyond himself even in this state." Most species would collapse immediately under such injuries. Humans, they push forward even when broken. Viral studied him. "Perhaps that is why they survive in ways no other species can. Not because they are stronger than us, not because they are faster or smarter, but because they refuse to quit. Their bodies may break, but their will does not." The human groaned again, trying to shift his torso to see the corridor. "Tell me, are they alive?" he asked, voice strained. The young medics nodded, shaking their heads. "Yes." "But many are trapped," Viral said quietly. "We are doing everything we can to reach them." The human's eyes narrowed. "Then I need to help. I can't wait until I'm fixed." Viral leaned closer, placing a hand on the human's shoulder. The crystalline surface of his hand felt cool and strange against warm, broken flesh. "Listen to me. You cannot move. You will die if you try. We will help them." The human's lips pressed into a thin line. "I can't just sit here. I have to try." For the next several hours, the alien doctors worked with the human, teaching him how to tolerate pain and how to move in ways that would prevent further injury. The human's endurance amazed them. He could withstand doses of pain suppressant that would have knocked out most species. His adrenaline levels stayed unnaturally high. Even his broken ribs, shattered arm, and cracked pelvis did not stop him from carefully lifting his body to help where he could. Laura observed closely. "He is teaching us," she whispered to Viral. "He is teaching us what it means to survive when all hope is lost." Viral nodded slowly. "Yes, humans are a species built on hardship. They evolved on a harsh planet, a world that punished weakness. Perhaps that is why they endure. Perhaps that is why they continue, even when their bodies fail." The human's vision blurred as he pushed himself upright, aided by the medics. Sweat coated his forehead. His blood stained the floor beneath the table. Pain racked his body, yet he did not stop. His mind remained clear, focused on the task: rescue the trapped civilians. He spoke softly, giving instructions to the alien doctors and medics. "We need to get the medics to the northern corridor first. Then the civilians near the energy core. The explosions may cause another collapse if we delay." The aliens listened, stunned. The human's body should not be able to speak clearly, let alone coordinate a rescue operation. But it did. His mind was sharp, aware, and utterly determined. Viral stepped back, eyes wide. We may have underestimated humans," he whispered to Lauro. "Yes," she agreed. They survive not because they are invincible, but because they refuse to quit. Even when the odds are impossible, they fight. The human groaned again, trying to lift his arm to help reposition a fallen medic. Pain shot through his nerves. His body trembled, but he did not stop. Every movement was agony, yet his mind remained sharp. "Stop," Laurel said again, stepping forward. "You are risking everything." The human looked at her, his eyes filled with determination. "If I stop, they may die," he said quietly. "I can't let that happen. I can't just survive for myself. I have to survive for them." The alien doctors exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and admiration in their expressions. They had treated countless injured beings across the galaxy. They had seen species that could withstand extreme temperatures, survive without oxygen, even endure radiation. But no species had ever shown the combination of pain tolerance, endurance, and mental focus that humans did. Hours turned into a tense night. The human guided the aliens, giving instructions even as his body broke down. He lifted injured medics, helped stabilize fallen civilians, and coordinated the distribution of medical supplies. Every few moments he would wince, his face pale with pain, but he never cried out. He never begged for mercy. His mind was entirely on the others. At one point, a young alien medic asked, voice trembling, "Why are you still helping? Why don't you rest?" The human looked at him, eyes full of quiet fire. "Because if I stop, they may die. Someone has to keep going. Someone has to do what is needed, even if it hurts. Even if it breaks me." Viral felt a shiver run down his crystalline spine. He had studied courage, resilience, and leadership for decades. He had witnessed acts of heroism across the galaxy. But this was something different. This was a species that refused to give up, no matter how broken, no matter how impossible the situation. The human's determination was contagious. The aliens, inspired by his will, worked faster, more efficiently, and more carefully. They began to understand what humans could do, not because of biology, but because of the unbreakable force of their will. By dawn, the majority of the civilians were rescued, guided and carried by the aliens, under the supervision of the human. He had done more than survive. He had led. He had fought through his broken body to save lives that would have otherwise been lost. Finally, exhaustion overcame him. His body shuddered, trembled, and collapsed onto the table. The alien medics rushed to stabilize him once more, fearing they had pushed him too far. But he smiled faintly, eyes closed, breathing ragged but steady. Viral leaned over him, voice soft. "You are extraordinary," he said. "No species in the galaxy could have done what you did." "Not like this." The human whispered, "I'm just human." Laurel smiled softly. "Yes, but humans are remarkable. You endure, you push, you fight, even when all odds are against you. Even when your body is broken, your mind does not stop. You refuse to quit." Viral studied him, thoughtful. "The galaxy has underestimated humans," he said. "Perhaps it is time we learn from them, rather than the other way around." The human's breathing evened as the first light of the new day filtered through the medical bay. Broken, battered, but alive, he had shown the aliens something they had never witnessed before. A species that did not survive because it was invincible, but because it refused to stop, no matter what. And for the first time, the Galactic Union doctors understood the truth. Humanity was not like any other species they had known. And if humans could endure this much pain, if they could fight this hard, then perhaps there was no limit to what they could achieve. As the alien medics cleaned and tended to the last of the rescued civilians, Viral whispered quietly to himself, This species will change the galaxy." The human, still unconscious but alive, had already begun to do so. The human lay on the medical table, his body a shattered map of injuries. Each movement, each breath, sent sharp pain racing through him. Yet despite the agony, his mind remained sharp and alert, observing, calculating, and planning. The alien doctors watched in awe, still struggling to comprehend the impossible. For weeks, the human had been in the medical bay, stabilized but not fully healed. The Galactic Union had thrown everything at him: advanced nanomedics, automated healing machines, alien regenerative fluids, and more. Yet even with all the technology, the human's survival was not due to medicine alone. It was his will, an indomitable force that refused to surrender. Viral paced the bay, his crystalline fingers tapping rhythmically on the edge of a console. "I have studied biology from hundreds of species," he murmured. "I have treated injuries that should have killed countless beings, but never have I seen anything like this." Laura, her feathers slightly ruffled, nodded. "It is not just endurance, it is adaptation. Humans do not react to pain the way other species do. They accept it. They work through it, even when their bodies are broken beyond reason." The human stirred on the table, lifting his head just enough to see the alien doctors. His voice was hoarse but clear. "How long until I can walk again?" Viral blinked, astonished. "Walk, your body." "I don't have time for body. I have to help. I need to understand how to save them," the human said, gesturing weakly toward the holographic display of the disaster zones. The alien doctors exchanged worried glances. The human was still recovering, his body far from healed, yet he was already thinking about action, about others, about the lives that depended on him. "You cannot move yet," Laurel said gently. "You must heal first, your body." "Will heal faster if I move," the human interrupted softly. "I can't wait. Every second counts, every life counts." Viral's voice softened. "Humans, you are extraordinary. You endure, you adapt, you act, even when broken." The human's lips curved faintly into a weak smile. "I don't know about extraordinary, I just can't stop." For the next few hours, the alien doctors observed him carefully. They adjusted his treatment, monitored his vital signs, and noted how his body responded differently than any species they had ever studied. Pain tolerance beyond calculation, bone repair accelerated by sheer willpower, heart rate that adapted to stress in ways no species could match. Laura whispered to Viral, "I think he is teaching us about the limits of life, about the human spirit." Viral nodded slowly. "Yes. The human body is fragile, but the human mind is unbreakable. It refuses to obey rules other species live by." The human sat up slightly, wincing but steadying himself. "I need to know why this happened. What caused the injuries? How to prevent it in the future," he said, his voice determined. The alien doctors hesitated. Normally, patients focused on recovery, not humans. Humans focused on action, even while broken. Viral explained the situation to him. "You were injured during the rescue mission. A collapse in the energy core trapped several civilians. Your body absorbed debris, shielding them. By all calculations, your survival was impossible." The human's eyes narrowed. "Impossible doesn't exist," he muttered. "It just means no one has done it yet." Laurel's feathers bristled. "He is fearless, even when broken." Viral studied him, fascinated. "Humans do not fear death. They accept pain, endure suffering, and push forward. It is not biology alone. It is mindset, determination, and something else. Something we cannot measure." Over the next several days, the human guided the alien doctors through the details of human survival. He explained how pain worked differently for humans, how adrenaline-like hormones and sheer mental focus allowed humans to operate under conditions that would collapse any other species. He demonstrated, carefully, how to stabilize a broken rib to allow breathing, how to realign fractured limbs temporarily, and how to manage bleeding with minimal resources. The alien doctors listened, learning not from their centuries of medical training, but from the raw survival instinct of a human. Viral muttered to himself, "This changes everything. Our entire understanding of medicine must be rewritten." The human's determination continued to astound them. Despite 17 broken bones, torn muscles, and damaged organs. He pushed himself through exercises designed to teach the aliens about human endurance. "Why are you still pushing?" asked the young alien doctor, fear evident in his voice. "Because I have to," the human replied. "Because others are counting on me. Because giving up is not an option, ever." Viral observed silently, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. Humans were not just survivors. They were teachers of survival. They showed the galaxy what was possible when instinct, determination, and courage outweighed fragility. One day, a crisis struck. The medical bay received urgent signals, another collapse in the outer habitat of the station. Civilians were trapped. Robots and medics could reach them, but the route was dangerous, unstable. The human tried to rise immediately. "I have to go," he said, wincing as pain shot through his broken pelvis. Viral held him back. "No, you are not ready." The human looked at him, eyes blazing. "I have to. If I don't, they may die. You think I survived this for myself. I survived to do what must be done." The alien medics watched in stunned silence. No species had ever demanded such action while critically injured. Yet here he was, ready to risk his life again, not for glory but for others. Finally, Viral relented. Carefully, he and the medics helped the human onto a hover stretcher that could support his weight and reduce strain on his body. The human guided them through the collapsed corridors, identifying the safest path. Along the way, the alien doctors realized something profound. The human mind, even when the body was shattered, could solve problems, adapt to new threats, and make split-second decisions that machines could not. He was teaching them a new form of survival, not just biological but tactical, mental, and moral. Hours later, all trapped civilians were rescued. The human, exhausted beyond measure, was carried back to the medical bay. He collapsed onto the table, every inch of his body screaming in pain. Viral knelt beside him. "You have changed everything today," he said quietly. "Our understanding of medicine, of biology, of survival, everything must be rewritten. Humans are extraordinary." The human's lips curved into a faint smile. "I just do what needs to be done," he whispered. Laura watched, her eyes wide with awe. "No, humans are something else entirely. They endure, they lead, they survive because they refuse to quit, even when broken beyond reason." Viral nodded. "Yes, this is the moment the galaxy must remember. Humans are not just another species. They are a force that cannot be measured by our calculations. They survive because they will not surrender, not ever." Word of the human's actions began to spread across the station. Alien doctors whispered about him in hushed tones, passing notes between departments. News of his survival, his guidance, and his courage reached even the Galactic Union Council. They had never seen a species endure such trauma, act with such intelligence under extreme pain, and save so many lives while critically injured. The human lay on the table, breathing raggedly, body battered and bruised, yet alive. He had survived where no one thought possible. He had taught the aliens about pain, endurance, and willpower. Viral knelt beside him one last time that day, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You have done what no species has ever done," he said softly. "You have changed our understanding of life itself." The human's eyes, filled with quiet fire, met his. "We all have to survive to protect each other," he said. "That is what it means to be human." And in that moment, every alien in the room realized something fundamental. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They were not the fastest, not the strongest, not the smartest, but they had a quality no calculation, no machine, no law of biology could predict. They refused to give up. They refused to quit. They endured. The story of the human with 17 broken bones was no longer just a story of survival. It was a lesson to the galaxy. Humans were extraordinary, not because of what they had, but because of what they would not surrender. And the moment had come when the Galactic Union began to understand that humans were a species that would change the future of the galaxy forever. The human lay in the recovery chamber, his body a map of broken bones, bruises, and scars. Every inch of him still ached. Yet even in exhaustion, he had survived what no other species could. The Galactic Union doctors had done everything possible with their advanced technology, but it was clear. It had been his will, not their machines, that had kept him alive. News of his survival spread quickly across the station. Every department, every corridor, buzzed with whispers. Alien medics, commanders, and counselors alike discussed the human with fascination and awe. They had studied countless species across the galaxy, seen the most extreme injuries, and treated the most resilient bodies. Yet nothing compared to what this human had endured and accomplished. Viral walked through the medical bay, observing quietly. He paused at the human's recovery chamber and studied him carefully. The human's chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a victory. Incredible, Viral whispered. Not because of biology, but because of willpower. Humans are extraordinary. Lauro nodded beside him. It's more than endurance, it's determination. They fight even when broken beyond reason. They inspire. They survive because they refuse to quit. The human stirred, blinking slowly. His eyes opened, bright and focused. He looked at the two aliens and smiled weakly. "Did everyone make it?" he asked, voice hoarse. Viral's crystalline hand hovered over his arm. "Yes, because of you, everyone survived. You guided the rescue. You saved countless lives." The human's smile was faint but full of quiet pride. "We all did it together," he said. "I just refused to give up." In the following weeks, the human story became legend on the station. Alien doctors documented his injuries, his treatment, and his survival. They studied the ways his body had endured trauma far beyond the limits of any known species. They observed how his mind remained clear under extreme pain, how his instincts guided him to protect others, and how his endurance inspired everyone around him. The Galactic Union convened a council meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss this singular event. Screens displayed the human scans, his vital statistics, and reports from the medics who had worked with him. Every alien present was quiet, absorbing the gravity of what they had witnessed. A counselor from a species known for their intellectual supremacy spoke first. "We have reviewed the data. These injuries should have killed him. Every calculation, every medical protocol predicts death. Yet he survived. How?" Viral stepped forward. "It is not technology, not science that saved him. It is his will. Humans, they refuse to surrender. Even when every system fails, even when their bodies are broken, they endure." Another counselor, a towering being with silver skin and multiple eyes, asked cautiously, "Are you suggesting humans are exceptional?" Viral nodded. "Yes, not because of strength or speed or intellect, but because they do not yield, they do not surrender. They survive because they refuse to quit." A murmur swept across the council chamber. The aliens, who had always measured life through biology and probability, were forced to acknowledge a truth they had never faced. Humanity was not predictable. Humanity was not measurable. Humanity was extraordinary. Meanwhile, the human began to recover. Each day he moved a little more, tested his strength, and practiced controlling the pain that still coursed through his body. The doctors were astonished. Where other species would have required months of rest, he trained carefully, rebuilding his body while remaining conscious, aware, and engaged in the ongoing efforts of the station. One morning, as he stretched weakly, Viral approached him. "You know, most species would have died weeks ago," he said softly. The human looked up, smiling faintly. "Most species don't have to. Humans, we survive because we have to. We fight because we choose to. Pain is temporary. Life is worth it. And giving up, that's not an option." Lauro, standing nearby, nodded. "I'm beginning to understand. Humans are not just survivors. They are teachers. They show us how to endure, how to lead, how to never quit." The human's gaze drifted to the windows of the station, where the stars stretched endlessly across the void. He thought of the rescue missions, the civilians, the injured medics. He had survived, yes, but survival was not enough. There were still others who needed help. Still lives to protect, still hope to give. Weeks later, the human stood in front of a council assembly, his body healed enough to support him, though still scarred. The room was filled with representatives from countless species, all eager to witness the being who had defied death itself. He spoke quietly, his voice firm and clear. "I am just a human," he said. "I am not the strongest. I am not the fastest. I am not the smartest. But I refuse to quit, and that is how we survive. That is how we protect each other. That is how humanity will always endure." The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, representatives began to speak, acknowledging the truth they had witnessed. That humans were not just another species. They were a force in the galaxy, capable of endurance, courage, and determination beyond measure. Over the following months, humans became a symbol throughout the Galactic Union. Medical schools studied the human's case, not just for its biological anomalies, but for the lesson it carried. Strategy courses taught human resilience as an example of mental endurance. Leaders quoted the human's determination as inspiration for courage in crisis. The alien doctors who had treated him often reflected on that first day he arrived in the medical bay, broken and bleeding. They remembered his calm gaze, his refusal to surrender, and the quiet fire in his eyes. They remembered the way he guided them, inspired them, and saved lives despite pain that would have killed any other species. Viral often spoke to young medics about the human. "You will treat many species in your lifetime," he said. "But remember this, never underestimate humans. They survive not because they are invincible, but because they refuse to stop. Their spirit is unmeasurable. Their will is unstoppable." The human, for his part, continued to serve. He did not seek glory. He did not desire recognition. He simply acted because it was necessary. Every life he protected, every mission he completed, was proof that humanity's greatest power was not in their bodies, but in their hearts, their minds, and their unbreakable spirit. Years later, the story of the human with 17 broken bones became legend across the galaxy. Children learned of it in schools. Soldiers studied it in training. Leaders used it as a lesson in courage. And every time someone faced impossible odds, someone remembered the human who had survived when death was certain, and who had continued to fight not for himself, but for others. The galaxy had learned an important truth. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not easily measured. Humans were not ordinary. Humans survived because they refused to surrender. Humans endured because they refused to quit. Humans inspired because they chose to act, even when broken beyond hope. And the human with 17 broken bones. He had become the symbol of a species that would never be forgotten, a species that would never stop, a species that would continue to shape the galaxy in ways that no one could imagine. The human looked out at the stars one evening, scarred but alive, exhausted but determined. He smiled faintly. "We are humans," he whispered, "and we will survive, no matter what." And somewhere in the council chambers, somewhere in the medical bays, and across countless worlds, the galaxy knew humans were extraordinary. Not because they could not be broken, but because they refused to stay broken. The legend had begun with 17 broken bones, but it would endure forever.